Over the last 10 years, a quiet alliance of automakers, software firms, and federal regulators basically rewrote the definition of vehicle ownership without ever asking for your permission.
What's going on, guys? I'm Hayden, and today we're going to be reacting to this insane video I found called Mechanics Send Huge Warning, Don't Buy New Vehicles in 2026. This was posted on a channel called Motor Feed, and I thought we should watch this together. Let's check it out.
New cars are breaking down faster than ever.
Yep.
They want you to pay a monthly subscription just to use your own heated seats. AI is taking over the wheel, and the government is mandating a kill switch. At this point, I think buying a new vehicle after 2026 is probably going to be a really bad idea.
Yeah.
So in this video, I'm going to show you 3 disturbing trends that are effectively killing the idea of car ownership for good. So let's break down what's changing, why it matters, and what it can mean for that car sitting in your driveway.
And the sad thing is, it's not just like a few different, brands or auto manufacturers. It's not like it's just BMW or just Audi. Essentially, any car brand that wants to sell their new cars in the US have to follow these rules. And it's getting to the point where that old car that you're thinking about selling in your driveway might make more sense to just fix it up and keep it than getting one of these new cars.
You might end up just keeping that one forever.
Yep.
Today I'm exposing the dark truth about the future of cars, and it's not looking good. We have to start with BMW, because they made one of the boldest moves in the industry.
Oh boy.
And despite all of the backlash, they never really walked it back. At least, not at first. In 2022, BM rolled out a subscription model in several countries that charged most drivers about $18 a month.
BMW now gives you the honor to pay them $18 a month to use your heated seats.
Just to use the heated seats that were already installed in the car.
Imagine this. You spend all of this money on a brand new BMW 7 Series. You're driving home one frigid LA evening and you're cold, so you reach for the bun warmers,
and
yet
it doesn't work.
Nothing happens when you push the buttons because somehow you forgot to pay the monthly subscription for heated seats.
This wasn't for like a streaming service or some cloud-based enhanced navigation or any kind of stuff like that, but for physical heating coils that were already installed in the seats in the car that you purchased.
The crazy thing is, these auto manufacturers, BMW, I mean, it's essentially across the board, but definitely the luxury brands, they don't expect you to keep these cars long. They expect you to use them for your lease period or to finance them for 4 or 5 years and then trade them in for the next one. So essentially, these subscription services just kind of get bundled into your car payment. And most people don't realize, because everybody's become a consumer. Now, the worst part is it doesn't just stop with BMW testing this out. I just bought a 2025 Mazda CX-50 hybrid, and the craziest thing is I found out there's an app on your phone where you can lock and unlock your car. However, I found out that they charge a subscription service for the remote start feature that's already installed in the car. So no longer can you press your remote 3 or 4 times and it auto starts, a feature that was on many of the previous models included. You now have to pay I think it's like $20 a month to turn the car on.
The wiring was there and all of the hardware was just sitting there in the seat, right under the driver and the passenger.
Yep.
Yet BMW wrote code specifically to disable those parts until the owner agreed to press that button for the monthly fee. While they eventually scrapped that plan after everyone on the internet collectively lost their mind over it,
Right.
The underlying strategy with that subscription model pretty much stayed exactly the same. These companies now view recurring fees for hardware they already sold you as a foundational part of their future business model. Now, some manufacturers like General Motors take a slightly quieter approach to this that actually impacts a lot more people through their OnStar service. Basic features like locking your doors from an app or checking your fuel level used to be part of the deal when you bought the truck. But now those functions are locked behind tiers that cost between $15 and $25 every single month. Even though the truck hasn't changed, GM decided that the ongoing revenue from a subscription model in your vehicle is more valuable than the profit they made from the initial sale. Even Ford is playing the same game with their Blue Cruise hands-free driving system on the F-150 and the Mustang Mach-E. When you drive one off the lot, you might get a 90-day trial, but once those 3 months are up, You have to shell out $75 every quarter just to keep using it.
But I also found out that the software goes a lot deeper. Mercedes and some of these other brands, if you need software updates because some of the infotainment or the screens in the instrument cluster get old or start lagging, they require software updates that they charge hundreds, if not thousands of dollars to fix, especially if you're out of warranty.
So you've already bought the cameras, the radar sensor, and the processing power required for the car to just basically almost drive itself. Yet you can't actually use any of that unless you stay on a payment plan that Ford controls.
It's crazy.
And not that this should come to you as a shock anymore, but Tesla is arguably the leader in this space with their full self-driving package, which currently costs either $90 a month or $15,000 up front. The truly frustrating part is that Tesla can push an over-the-air update, like in the middle of the night,
Sure can.
that completely changes how any of these features work.
Yeah.
People who drop $15,000 on self-driving software have seen their car's capabilities shift and change overnight, proving that they didn't really buy a permanent product, but rather a temporary license for a number on a screen. Even Stellantis is running the exact same playbook on their Uconnect system on everything from Jeep Wranglers to Ram trucks. Features like remote start and Wi-Fi access now require an active subscription even though the hardware was installed at the factory, and the capability already exists in the machine sitting in your driveway. That shift is entirely intentional.
You guys don't realize that in the future, or well, now, all these new cars, you don't necessarily own them. Like, you might own the physical product, but in the eyes of the manufacturer, you're just licensing the right to use their software and their products that's built into the car, and they can essentially take it away or change it without you ever knowing. Something very similar happened to like a lot of Volkswagens, a lot of the Golfs. I remember the instrument clusters weren't working, and Volkswagen put out a statement that they're going to send an update over Wi-Fi, which fixed all these cars from having these glitches. But isn't that scary that they can remotely access and update your cars from anywhere in the world? It also makes me think about what happens when your car runs out of storage. Now, as you guys should know by now, a big part of this channel is finding simple ways to be more intentional with money without making things overly complicated. And I think I found something you guys will really like. Today's sponsor, Upside. Now, when it comes to things like gas, groceries, and eating out, even when you're trying to be careful with money, those are kind of three things you really just can't avoid. And honestly, with how expensive everything's gotten lately, I'm always trying to find like little ways to make the money I'm already spending go a little further, which is exactly why I like Upside. It's a free app that gives you cash back on gas, groceries, and dining at places you're already going to anyways. And what I like about it is it's not one of those apps where you're kind of collecting points you'll probably never use. It's actual cash back you can transfer straight to your bank account. The way it works is simple. You open the app, claim an offer, pay with your card like normal, and you get cash back. That's it. And what surprised me is how many places are actually on there. They've got over 100,000 participating locations across the US. So once you start checking it before you fill up or grab food, it kind of becomes automatic. And you can stack it with your existing credit card or loyalty points, so you're earning cash back on top of cash back. I also think this fits like the bigger idea here, being more intentional with money, because a lot of people focus only on cutting expenses, but getting more out of what you're already spending matters too. Upside has given back $1 billion to its users. So to find out how much you could earn, scan the QR code you see somewhere on the screen, or download the free Upside app and use promo code Hayden to get an extra 25 cents back for every gallon on your first tank of gas. That's an extra 25 cents back for every gallon on your first tank, just by using the promo code Hayden. So again, huge thanks to Upside for sponsoring today's episode.
Especially since McKinsey projected that these in-car subscriptions could bring in $250 billion in annual revenue by the end of 2030. If you listen to any of these automakers' earnings call lately, you'll notice that they call you a user instead of a customer.
Right.
Because a customer buys a product once,
Yep.
while a user is someone that they can monetize forever. Subscriptions are a massive headache, but you can technically live without heated seats or self-driving tech. The real problem starts when your car actually breaks down and you realize you're not even allowed to fix it yourself anymore.
That's
your new
crazy.
car runs on more than 100 million lines of code, yet almost none of that code belongs to you. You aren't allowed to touch it, read it, or work around it. The clearest example where this leads is actually not even from the automotive industry, because it actually came from the world of farming.
We talked about this.
And this is where the auto industry is headed if we're not careful. John Deere spent years locking farmers out of their own tractors using proprietary software that made simple repairs impossible. A farmer in Iowa couldn't even fix a basic sensor failure during the middle of harvest season without calling a dealer, waiting for an authorized technician, and paying whatever high rate the dealer decided to charge.
We're already seeing this being rolled out across a lot of the new cars where you need special dealer level software to reset simple maintenance service things. For example, if you wanted to change your rear brake pads, well, they have an electronic parking brake now that in order to retract the caliper and not break it, you need special dealer software. Back in the day, I don't know, 5-6 years ago, you used to be able to press a button in your car and it would retract it. Now you have a service light on your dashboard or an oil change light on your dashboard. You can do the oil change, but you're not able to get the light off your dash without bringing it to a dealer or paying hundreds, if not thousands of dollars a year to use the licensed software from the dealer to reset your own car.
Even though the machine physically was on their land and considered their property since they purchased it, it remained functionally under the control of the manufacturer, John Deere. It took years of organized pressure from farm groups before Deere finally signed a right to repair memorandum of understanding with the American Farm Bureau in 2023. But even that agreement lacks real teeth. Farmers are still reporting the same lockout issues that started this whole problem 5 years ago. That situation with John Deere serves as the roadmap for your next car, and companies like Ford, GM, and Stellantis are already moving down that path. Their proprietary diagnostic systems require dealer-only software to handle basic functions like resetting control modules, programming replacement keys, or calibrating sensors after a simple repair.
And this reminds me of something crazy. I have an Audi RS3 at 2018 for those that don't know, but I also have a second channel where I rebuild cars and fix cars up. And I had purchased a Volkswagen Golf R that, got in a front end wreck and the sensors needed to be replaced. But even crazier than that, I was driving home one day in my clean titled Audi and I went through a puddle and the adaptive cruise control sensor, got hit. And I guess it slightly moved or it freaked out and threw up a driver warning light error on my dash. And usually it goes away because it's happened before in storms. This time it didn't. Audi wanted over $3,000 to recalibrate that system with dealer-level only software. There's no other way around it. But it's crazy that we've gotten to a point now where even fixing your car from a simple fender bender, your headlight gets damaged, you buy a used one online, you replace it because you don't want to pay $2,000 for the dealer, and the light still doesn't work. Because guess what? They've coded the light to only work with the car you bought it off of. And now you need dealer-level software to code the light to your specific car, forcing you to go back to the place that we're trying to avoid.
Independent shop with a solid reputation and an average 20 years of experience cannot access those systems without manufacturer authorization, which means the dealer then becomes your only option when a transmission module needs a quick recalibration. The dealer knows that they have a monopoly on that repair, and they price their services accordingly, which is usually very high. The rise of ADAS systems makes this problem even worse for the average owner. Features like lane keep assist, automatic emergency braking, and adaptive cruise control all require precise physical calibration after anything touches the front of the vehicle. Whether it's a minor fender bender, a bumper replacement, or sometimes even something as simple as a new windshield getting installed, the car needs to be recalibrated. And a lot of this equipment required costs between $10,000, $50,000 or even more, depending on the manufacturer. And most independent shops, especially the smaller mom and pop shops, just can't absorb that cost.
The craziest part is I didn't even think about like a windshield. So basically they took the cheapest things that get damaged the most on a car and found a way to make them very expensive. So now you get a rock chip in your window and it cracks the windshield. No longer is it, safe light repair, safe light replace, $500 through your insurance, and they just swap it out and you're good. No, You need to then bring the car to a specialized shop where the equipment is tens of thousands of dollars and have the car recalibrated because of the cameras, in the windshield. That's why insurance is getting absolutely out of control, costing you a fortune, and why most cars get totaled out from a simple fender bender.
End up turning the job away or sending it straight to the dealer. And either way, the manufacturer wins while you pay more.
Yep.
Now, some manufacturers are even looking at restricting access to the OBD port, which is that little connection under your dashboard that every mechanic, plugs that little reader into to tell you why you've got a check engine light. In that scanner, you can go to like AutoZone or O'Reilly's and it costs you maybe $30. But at a dealership, it's going to cost you way more. The OBD2 standard has been required on every vehicle sold in the United States since 1996. And open access to that port is basically the last thing standing between independent shops and a complete diagnostic lockout.
Yep.
If manufacturers succeed in moving to this gated system where third-party scanners need specific permissions to pull codes, then independent repair will become nearly impossible on modern vehicles, especially independent repair at your own house. The automotive industry has spent some serious money making sure legislation doesn't fix this power imbalance. In fact, they want that imbalance to get even bigger. When the Repair Act was reintroduced in Congress in 2023 to guarantee car owners and independent shops access to the same information dealers get, automakers and their lobbying groups spent over $25 million fighting it. The bill stalled out and is still sitting there today, while independent repair shops currently handle around 70% of all post-warranty vehicle repairs in the US. This competitive market is the only thing that keeps dealer labor rates from going completely unchecked. If you lock independent shops out of the diagnostic and calibration systems that they need, that 70% market share will virtually evaporate overnight. Every out-of-warranty repair will flow back through the dealer network at dealer prices on dealer timelines with zero competitive pressure to keep the process honest.
I just went to get my AC serviced, or at least I was trying to get it fixed on one of my cars. I was thinking it was going to cost, I don't know, $150 like I thought it was a couple of years ago. I was getting quotes over $300 for a basic AC service with the old, refrigerant, not this new crazy stuff here. And it's getting to the point where it drove me to go purchase my own recovery machine and my own recovery tank and do it myself, because buying all that equipment was essentially the same price, or it would pay itself off after 2 uses compared to going to a shop.
It means dealers will no doubt raise prices across the board to benefit themselves. The subscription model sells you access to something that you think you already own. But the repair lockout sells you a permanent dependency on a service network that you can't escape. Both of these shifts are decisions made in corporate boardrooms to maximize long-term revenue. And the next part of this gets even worse. This involves the federal government deciding that your car needs to be able to stop itself. And this is where we have to look at who actually gets to decide when.
Oh boy, before we even get there, the scariest part of the whole thing is because these politicians are fighting to remove your right to repair, and because us consumers have been able to fight back and win it and keep everything okay for right now, these car manufacturers are getting sneaky, and what they're doing is they're just creating the parts now to fail prematurely, or they'll put them in spots where they'll break down quicker or are just made to not last, essentially driving up repair prices and forcing you into a newer car. They're sneaky little bastards.
That happens. Most people never took the time to read the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act because it's a 2,700-page bill. But the part that matters is buried deep in Section 24220. This section contains a mandate requiring all new vehicles sold in the United States after 2026 to include a passive drunk and impaired driver prevention system.
This is crazy.
That language sounds reasonable to most people until you dig deeper and realize what it actually describes, which is a system that monitors the person behind the wheel in real time and can disable the vehicle if it decides something is wrong. This isn't a breathalyzer that you blow into before the engine starts, but a passive system that runs without any action from you every single time you drive. The NHTSA is still in process of writing a technical standard for what qualifies as an acceptable system, But the leading technologies involve driver-facing cameras that watch your eyes and face.
This is insane.
Other options
Yep.
include steering input sensors that track your response patterns and biometric monitoring systems that can read your psychological signals. These systems are always recording and always analyzing your behavior.
We're seeing this rolled out in a lot of the Teslas and those newer all-electric cars. They're at the forefront of creating the technology, but it's trickling down into the other brands that have to, essentially include this stuff in their car in order to sell it in the US, Toyota being one of them, Mazda being another. It's essentially sitting these like little lights or cameras that sit right inside the steering wheel watching you. If it's obstructed or blocked, car turns off. But what could possibly go wrong? Imagine one day you're in a domestic violence situation and you need to get away. Your heart rate's up, your adrenaline's pumping, your eyes are bloodshot. You run into your car, you press the start button, and it goes, "Sorry, you're not fit to drive." It's coming, folks.
If the computer decides that your inputs look off in any way, whatever that means, it doesn't ask for your opinion before it acts. Now, before you call this a conspiracy, you have to understand that the underlying infrastructure for remote vehicle control already exists in tens of millions of cars on American roads right now.
But there is a law that states that every vehicle manufactured is going to have a kill switch in it. The car itself will monitor your driving. And if the car thinks that you're not doing a good job driving, it will disable itself. So the car dashboard becomes your judge, your jury, and your executioner.
Essentially,
The
yeah.
OnStar system from GM has a documented remote disabled capability that law enforcement has used to slow down stolen vehicles during high-speed pursuits. The car receives a signal from a remote
That's actually
operator,
crazy.
the throttle response drops away, and the vehicle simply coasts to a stop. GM built that technology and marketed it as a helpful theft recovery tool. And it worked.
Conveniently, you know what else is going to happen? For the people that are late on their car payments or don't make a payment at all, the car's just going to brick itself. You're not going to be able to drive it or operate it at all. It's just going to be off until you make your payment, making it much easier for the repo company to come get it because you won't be able to start it and take them on this wild goose chase like we've made videos on.
Exactly as intended.
Crazy.
The question of whether a car can be disabled remotely from outside of a vehicle is already settled. So the only question left is who controls that capability and what happens when that sensor system makes a mistake. Even data recorders are already answering a part of that question. And the reality is not very reassuring if you're a privacy advocate. EDRs are required in virtually every vehicle made after 2014 to record speed, throttle position, brake application, and steering input in the seconds surrounding a crash. In most states, law enforcement can access that data without even having a warrant, which means your car is already keeping records that can be used against you in the court of law.
It
you
does,
never
yeah.
specifically agreed to this data collection because the technology was just in there when you bought your vehicle. But the argument that nobody in the government wants to have is the follow-up. Once you built a system that can monitor driver behavior and disable a vehicle based on what it detects, you have built something that can be repurposed for other things. The same camera that's watching for impairment can watch for anything the programmer wants it to see. The same kill switch that stops the drunk driver can receive other instructions from outside sources. And
This is actually crazy what he was talking about before, though. Like, you guys don't realize when you're speeding around in your new car and you accidentally get into an accident, or, it could also benefit you if the other person causes the accident. You don't realize that that car has a little black box that's been keeping records of everything you've been doing now. And it's going to get even worse when it's physically watching you, watching your eyes, biometric markers, and everything else, because it's just going to report it to the insurance company and either kick you off or they're going to raise your rates through the roof. But police already use it. They can go into that box when the car gets brought in and see how fast you were going, whether or not you used a turn signal, where you were. And essentially, it tells on you.
same EDR storing crash data can store much more if the standard gets expanded. None of this is speculation about a distant future dystopia, but rather a description of the logical extension of systems being mandated right now. These tools are built on infrastructure that already exists and managed by agencies whose technical standards are still being written behind closed doors. So what's the move here? What can you actually do about all this government overreach, subscription models, and regulation trying to control your vehicle remotely? I mean, what can you do? The most direct answer is to buy older vehicles, because trucks from the mid-2000s...
You know what else you can do? You can subscribe to the channel. This way you stay informed on the latest, greatest, and craziest stuff happening in 2026 and moving forward. Also, if you like today's content, definitely make sure to drop a like on today's episode.
To the early 2010s hit a sweet spot that's getting harder to find as prices climb and supply shrinks. These vehicles are mechanically mature with parts available everywhere, and since independent shops can work on them without proprietary authorization, you aren't locked into a dealership's ecosystem. None of these came from the factory with a camera pointed at your face, which is why a pre-2015 Toyota Coma, a 2012 Ford F-150 with a 5-liter Coyote, or a pre-2014 GM truck running an LS engine still feels like something you actually own. You can diagnose these with a $30 scanner from Amazon and take them to any shop in town. But that window is shrinking fast, and the value on clean examples of those trucks will reflect it because people have finally figured this out. The longer you wait, the more you're going to have to pay for a vehicle that actually belongs to you. And on the legislative side, right to repair is moving at the state level faster than it ever has federally. And over 40 states have introduced some form of this legislation over recent years. State bills don't have to survive the same massive lobbying budgets that killed the Repair Act in Washington, which means constituent pressure at the state level is a real lever that you can actually pull. So one thing you can do is call your state representative or show up to a town hall meeting. And as far as this new federal mandate,
the best thing you can do is to just avoid buying brand new cars. The only reason I bought a 2025 CX-50 is because it didn't have all that technology. I don't even have parking sensors, for crying out loud. But that 2010, and we can stretch it to maybe 2018, is kind of that sweet spot depending on when the car was refreshed and revised, the car brand. That's a good spot where you have kind of this in-between of good technology, a nice refresh, and also full control over your own car.
For monitoring drivers with cameras inside the car, the NHTSA is still writing the technical rules, and public comment periods on federal rulemaking are legally required. The rules are still being decided on what can actually trigger a vehicle and make it not work, or make it not turn on or start at all. So public comment is really more important than ever. And as far as repairing your own vehicle, you might as well pick up a $30 OBD2 scanner, because being able to read your own codes and diagnose your own car and fix it yourself is going to save you a ton of money in the long run. And here's the uncomfortable truth. The car industry is no longer selling machines. They're selling controlled access. BMW, Tesla, Ford, and General Motors aren't just building vehicles anymore. They're building platforms, machines tied to software, subscriptions, permissions, and remote oversight. And once a product becomes a platform, ownership completely starts to disappear. And that's the shift that most people haven't really noticed yet. You bought it, you drove it, you fixed it, you modified it, and if you wanted to keep it running for 30 years, nobody could stop you. And the simple idea that your property was yours to control. Now that idea is being chipped away one update at a time. A feature can be disabled overnight. A repair can be blocked by software.
Sure can.
A sensor can decide that your driving inputs don't look right for whatever reason. And every single one of those changes gets sold as convenience, safety, or progress. The real issue isn't whether every new system is malicious. It's what happens when the infrastructure exists and the rules change later. History shows that once a system is built, it rarely stays limited to its original purpose. That's why this whole conversation matters now. Not 10 years from now where every driveway is filled with a software-defined vehicle, but right now where we still have a choice. Because once older cars and trucks disappear from our roads...
And we've made videos talking about how there's been random junkyard fires, or the, what is it? Cars for clunkers, cash for kids, stuff like that, where they've, just made cars disappear, crushed them for the goodness of the environment, which is full of shit. It's essentially to force you to not have parts to repair these newer cars, force you to not be able to get used cars, because now used becomes so much more expensive that they're neck and neck with a new one, and who's going to buy a used one for when $3,000 more can get you a brand new one. But it's all to force you onto this without you even realizing it. And most people live their lives on autopilot and are so engulfed by this consumerism lifestyle that all they care about is touchscreens, parking sensors, 360-degree cameras, the ability for the car to drive themselves so they can take a nap. You're losing your rights and you don't even realize it.
Independent repair shops lose access, and once every new vehicle depends on a manufacturer's server to unlock its full functionality, going back will be almost impossible.
Yep.
At that point, the industry won't need to convince anyone. The old alternative, the do-it-yourself fixing your vehicle, will simply be gone. So before you buy your next vehicle, ask this one simple question. Are you buying a machine, or are you just renting permission to use one? That answer may determine whether the last vehicle that you truly own is already sitting in your driveway.
Well, guys, that is going to be it for today's episode. It's a crazy video. We've spoken about this, but this was a really well-packaged episode that just tells you the craziness that's going on this year. And it's only going to get worse unless people start to wake up. And this is why I strongly recommend holding on to your older cars, learning how to fix your cars yourself, and kind of telling your friends about it too, because not only are you saving thousands of dollars, you're saving the ability to kind of own your own stuff, which is crazy to say now. But that's going to be it for today's episode. Definitely make sure to smash that like button, turn on post notifications, subscribe. And if you haven't seen my new cars in 2026 are unfixable, definitely make sure to check that video out right after this. Peace.